Yes, Curtis Alexander. Let's talk about some mistakes in particular, three mistakes that I see people making that leads to bloating. If you can address these, you're going to start seeing that improve quickly. And so I just want to hop into some of these things. So first of all, what's the one of the big things is low stomach acid. Okay. Now, what in the world does that mean? How do you address it? So it can be caused by a number of different things. One of the more common ones is if you have something like H. pylori. It's a bacteria that can get a hold in the gut, and it has a tendency to kind of dig in. It can be a little tough to treat. A lot of times they'll give you antibiotics. However, if you have something like that, what we can see happen is that over time, it can actually cause you to produce less stomach acid. So that can be one cause. Another cause would be something, I see this a lot, is PPIs or proton pump inhibitors. And I've made other videos. Feel free to check those out. This is a class of medications that basically goes in and knocks down your stomach acid. So you're not going to produce as much stomach acid. Okay. Now, regardless of what the cause is, the problem with not producing enough stomach acid is you're simply not going to digest your food as much as you should be digesting it. You're also going to not absorb as many nutrients because you're simply not digesting your food. And the problem with that is over time, that food basically ends up rotting in your intestinal tract, for lack of a better term. That can be pushed back up. It can cause reflux. It can cause bloating. So this is one of those things that I see a lot in folks. Obviously, the discussion on whether you should be on something like a PPI is between you and your doctor. But again, I see a lot of these issues with people who have too little stomach acid causes a lot of bloating. Okay. The next one is a really obvious one. I'm guilty of this a lot. A lot of guys are, but that's simply eating too fast. Um, it's kind of self-explanatory. You really need to be a little more mindful in your eating patterns. But if you're eating too fast, it can cause bloating. It's a simple fix. So just kind of slow down when you're eating and focus on chewing your food, as stupid as that sounds. Now, this third one is a huge one. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this. But it's a big factor, and that is gut dysbiosis. Okay. Now I've done other videos and talked a bit about this, but what is gut dysbiosis? Basically, the old, you have good and bad bacteria, in your gut. And when you get out of whack, we can get too much of the bad stuff, not enough of the good stuff. And there can be a number of causes for why this was going on. Some typical ones are, you're just eating the wrong foods. And what I mean by that is if you have gut dysbiosis, or if you feel you do and you're having this bloating, I would I would kind of revisit what you're eating. So I would focus on, as far as the protein front, I would look at more of the animal proteins. A lot of the cuts of meat are going to be good options. Eggs, as long as you tolerate those. Seafood. Um, Dairy is a tricky one. Dairy can be poorly tolerated by people. I think dairy is looked down upon in the fact, well, I have lactose intolerance, I have this. Generally, it's not dairy's fault, it's the fact that you have these gut problems to start with, but dairy gets blamed for it. However, in the beginning, it may be helpful to withdraw that dairy for a short period of time and just kind of work up from there. That could be milk, that could be cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, those sorts of things. So they can be typical offenders. But so be a little careful with that, but you wanna look at natural sources of protein, like I talked about before. Um, you wanna think easily digestible, okay? So an example of that would be, a lot of fruits as long as they're ripe fruits, those are easily digestible for most folks. If they're not, you can look at things, for example, honey, maple syrup, um what we probably wanna avoid is some of these more hard to digest fibrous types of foods. Be very careful with that. If you have extreme bloating and it's a big issue, you may want to look at going on a low FODMAP diet. Basically, that means there's some foods that can be triggering for people as far as bloating goes. So an example of that would be, again, we kind of talked about dairy, beans, lentils. A lot of people struggle with veggies. If you're going to have veggies, make sure they're well cooked. Wheat can be another offender. So those are some things that I would address from a dietary front. A lot of people, when they have gut dysbiosis, they immediately turn to probiotics. I would not recommend this. I have a lot of people coming to me who fall for some of the marketing hype surrounding some of these probiotic brands, and it can make the bloating worse, can make the gut problems worse. So, that doesn't make probiotics bad. They have a time and place. But right off the bat, it's something I find best avoided in most people. Okay. So again, guys, these are very simple. Sometimes it takes a little more time than others, depending on what your cause is. But like I said, something like eating too fast can be a simple fix. Some of the dietary changes can be simple. Some of these things may take a little bit of time. Uh, some of these other examples, like the H. pylori, may have to dig in a little bit on that one. But those are some things I have found that really help people with the bloating. They're not complicated and something you can tackle right away. If you're looking for other options to help your digestive health, I talk about a lot of those in my free checklist, curtis-alexander.com. I put a link in the description. Go grab that. It's free. It's helpful. And you don't have to rely on drugs and surgery. So, um, let me know in the comments other topics that would be helpful for me to cover if there's enough demand out there for other people wanting to see, and I'm happy to make those videos as long as they're going to be helpful for you guys. Speaking of helpful, I hope this was. I'll see you in the next one.